What's the craziest baseball lineup you can think of? I'm talking about a real life lineup. Can you think of anything that was really bizarre? Now, if you've been watching this channel, you already know about the final game of the 1902 season where the Cincinnati Reds protested by putting out a lineup that was completely ridiculous. But most of us don't play with the 1902 season. What about a season that a lot of us do replay? This is the 1961 season. So let's just jump straight into this. This one took place at the first game of a doubleheader on June 29th, 1961, and this is a doozy. You need to know the background first. On June 28th, the Giants and the Phillies played for 15 innings. The game went over 5 hours and ended up stopping at a 7-7 draw. It stopped because the game had advanced beyond 12:30 in the morning, and Major League Baseball rules at that time prohibited any inning from starting after 12:30 a.m. I've read the accounts of that game. I'm not certain why the game lasted over 5 hours. 15 innings is a lot, but in 1961, that's pretty slow. So the next day's game, or evening's game, turned into a doubleheader. The first game of the doubleheader was scheduled for around 6:30 p.m., and that meant another very, very long night of baseball. Now, Phillies manager Gene Mauch and Giants manager Alvin Dark decided to play some head games at the beginning of this one, and this is where things get totally crazy. So, Alvin Dark waited until the last possible second to announce the starting pitcher. The Phillies were predicted to start either Art Mahaffey or Dallas Green, both of whom were righties. Gene Mauch decided to start Green in the opening game, though he didn't actually start Dallas Green. Instead, he started Ken Lehman, a lefty, as a decoy starter. Gene Mauch, to my knowledge, based on newspaper articles, had I think 6 different pitchers warming up before the beginning of this game. Now let's talk about Ken Lehman. Lehman was chiefly a reliever in 1961 and was at the end of his short and his uneventful career. He started one additional game in 1961. He went 6 innings in the second game of a doubleheader at Milwaukee in that one, and that's a game that he lost. There's no reason to believe that Mauch actually wanted to start Lehman in this game. Lehman, for the record, started a grand total of 13 games out of his 134 pitching appearances in his 5-year Major League career. So that is already kind of ridiculous. Lehman ended up pitching to 2 batters and then was lifted, but the rest of the lineup was even crazier. So Gene Mauch's lineup in this game was just totally nuts. He had Don Ferrarizi hitting leadoff and playing center field. Ferrarizi, and I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, Ferrarizi was a pitcher. In fact, he had pitched 5 2/3 innings the night before. Now, if your game's 1961 cards list Ferrarizi as an outfielder, they're simply wrong. He may be credited with the start in this game, but he did not play a single inning. He was lifted before he was the leadoff hitter. He was listed as the first hitter and listed as playing center field. Now, also so you understand this, Ferrarizi was a right-handed hitter, though he threw left, part of the confusion. Bobby Del Greco came in to replace him before the first plate appearance. He was also a right-handed hitter, and he was the normal Philadelphia center fielder. All right, so you got one there, and it gets worse. Jim Owens, a right-handed hitter, was listed as the number 3 hitter for the Phillies in this game, playing right field. Owens was another pitcher. He had started the game on June 26th, and as history will show, he started the next night, June 30th, against Los Angeles. Like Ferrarizi, Owens was taken out before his first plate appearance, and yet he still receives credit for his outfield start. Owens was replaced by Bobby Smith, another right-handed hitter, who was another decoy, by the way. Smith actually was an outfielder and played the top of the first inning in right field. Then, before Smith could come up to bat, Tony Gonzalez came up to hit for him in the bottom of the first inning and finished the game in right field. Gonzalez was a left-handed hitter. Now, it gets crazier from there. The way that I found this game is I was looking around for examples of left-handed throwers being listed as catchers in Major League games, and this is where this comes up. Chris Short was listed as the starting catcher. Short was the starting pitcher the night before. and he was a right-handed hitter, although he threw left, so it's another left-handed pitcher that was warming up before the game. His start again is noteworthy because he's one of the very, very few men who was ever listed as starting as a left-handed catcher in a Major League Baseball game. He does receive credit for starting at catcher, but he was replaced before the first at-bat of the game. Short was removed for Jimmy Coker, who hit right-handed and was an actual catcher. But, like Bobby Smith, Jimmy Coker stayed in for a defensive half inning. Coker was then replaced by Clay Dalrymple, a left-handed hitting catcher who of course threw right. And Dalrymple is the one who ended up finishing the game. So you got all that? Now, I'll simplify this a little bit. If we just look at handedness, Mauch's starting lineup looks like this. So you can see there were 8 right-handed batters in the lineup and then a left-handed pitcher listed at the end, who also of course batted left-handed. After Mauch made his changes by the bottom of the first inning, the Phillies had 2 different left-handed bats inserted in the lineup, one in the number 3 slot and one in the number 6 slot, and all of a sudden their pitcher was a right-handed pitcher. So all of that changed in the first inning of this game. Now, Alvin Dark and the Giants didn't exactly play along with this game. Dark did have a trick up his own sleeve, however. He delayed that starting pitcher announcement until the last moment, and then he finally settled on Billy O'Dell. Now, Billy O'Dell, who was a lefty, was chiefly a reliever by this point. He had started once before against the Phillies on June 6th and was taken out after giving up 4 runs before he could get out of the first inning. O'Dell didn't last very long in this game, as you can imagine. O'Dell was taken out after the first batter. The actual starter for Alvin Dark was Sam Jones, a right-handed pitcher. So, everybody had lineup shenanigans in this one. The Giants didn't do any of this weird thing where they had a bunch of pitchers playing in different defensive positions, but they did use a decoy starter as well. So there's a couple of things for us to learn from this game in the world of baseball replays. The first one, as I keep saying, is do not trust the starting lineups as Retro Sheet lists them. Always look first, always verify. Crazy stuff happened all the time. Make sure that you take the time to look things up, especially if you're trying to do real-life lineups. My recommendation is to ditch the real-life lineups and try to make realistic lineups yourself and take control of your replay. If you're not going to do that, at the very least, do yourself the favor of taking a look and looking out for guys who were taken out before they did anything in the game, because it did happen. Number 2 is never underestimate to what crazy lengths managers would go to at that time or at any time in baseball history to gain a small platoon advantage. So in this case, Gene Mauch went through 6 players, including 4 pitchers, before the top of the second inning, just to get a very infinitesimal advantage that didn't help him in the end because the Phillies lost the game. And third, be very, very careful when you see pitchers who have been listed as playing at multiple non-pitching positions. Sometimes they actually did play those positions. You see that a lot in the pre-World War I era of baseball. But sometimes they were just pawns in this greater chess game.